Hello, CSU Bakersfield fans. Welcome back to our final Zoom conversation as part of our countdown to joining the Big West Conference on July 1st. Over the past few weeks, these interviews have given us a chance to sit down with some of our greatest road runners, speak with them directly about their experiences on and off the field, and how their time at CSUB shaped their lives, as well as their roles in some of the bigger moments in CSUB athletic history. Tonight, we're joined by a former CSUB student athlete and a current men's soccer assistant coach, James Garces. James was a 4-year starter on defense for the Runners from 2010 to 14, including his sophomore season as part of the back line on CSUB's 2011 NCAA Tournament team. He's been back in Bakersfield as an assistant coach for the past 5 seasons. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
And it's a pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Great. Well, welcome. Let's jump right into things. We'll start at the beginning. You grew up here in Bakersfield. You're a local, recruited to play at CSUB. Was CSUB always on your radar coming out of high school? And what do you remember about your recruiting process? Why CSUB was the right fit for you?
Yeah, I think the process kind of started early on, before I even knew it really did. Just growing up in the area, a lot of early memories as a kid coming to CSUB soccer games. At the time, I had an older brother who played youth soccer here in the area as well. So, he would go to the games with his friends. I would go to the games. But just like you see today, like all the little kids playing on the side of the stadium, that was me back then. And then as I grew older, my interest obviously grew as well. And I really started to be able to watch the game, appreciate the game, understand who the players were, because a lot of them coached in the community at the time, different youth teams. So I think my memories start, early on when I was a kid, and appreciating what CSUB men's soccer was for the community. As I grew older, I played youth soccer here in the Bakersfield area for a number of different teams. And then there was really a big turning point for me when I was about 16 years old. The team that I was playing on at the time was kind of going through a transition. The club I was playing for was merging with another local club. And it was really a moment where I felt if there was a time for me to step out of my comfort zone, kind of test my level at, test my ability, at a higher level potentially, it would be at that moment. And I felt like if I was to do that, it could possibly open up more doors. It could prepare me for, any potential future in college. So I made a big decision, and I chose to play for a development academy team in Southern California, in Pasadena area. So that was a big change in my life, especially with youth soccer. It was a big sacrifice. My parents made a huge sacrifice traveling down to Pasadena, 4 days a week. But I felt like it really made me realize if this is something that I wanted to pursue at a high level, then this was a sacrifice, and sacrifices were definitely going to have to be made.
You mentioned the feeling of community when you were growing up here following the program. What did CSUB men's soccer mean to you at the time to have a D1 program right here in town? What do you want it to mean to the community now that you're coaching with the program?
Yeah, at the time, I remember there was so much buzz. This was about 2006, 2007. And that was the period where we were going through the transition stages of going from Division II to Division I. And I think it's important at that time that everyone realized what a big move that was for the university, for the athletics department. And it was massive for me ultimately in my decision to come here to play at the highest level. And that how important it was for the community that they could back a department, they could back a program, they could back the CSUB men's soccer team, knowing that they were playing against the best competition in the country at the highest level in still amateur sport.
Getting into your playing career, you redshirted your first season here And then your first season on the active roster, you started 7 games, you made 14 appearances. This was 2011 when the program won 12 games and went to the NCAA tournament. When you reflect on that season, did you imagine that level of team success immediately upon arriving at CSUB? And what do you remember about that season?
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, you're kind of just in the moment. So you realize that you're surrounded by really good players. You're training with, against them every single day. But you don't understand how good maybe you guys are actually as a team until, you know, and then, for me individually, I had to grow into the season. I was still a young man trying to mature, find my way. And at the beginning of the campaign, I was coming in off the bench, and then my minutes were beginning to grow as the season went on. And then probably about 3/4 of this through the season was when I really started to find my best form and kind of stake my claim for a starting position. That transitioned into the conference tournament, and then we'll speak about how we finished that conference tournament against New Mexico in penalties, and then obviously going into the NCAAs. But it was a special group. I mean, obviously we all know the likes of Jossie and the success that he's had. And playing alongside him, defending him every day in training. You didn't realize how much better you were actually getting by being around someone like himself. But, it would be a disservice if I didn't mention all the other players that were on that team. Just different level. Chewy Sanchez, Corey Kindle, Richard Menjivar, Andy Devlin, Scott Lukey. There's on and on. Phenomenal players. It made playing for me a lot easier, but I think it definitely improved the game.
Yeah, certainly Jossie had a great season that year, set a D1 record for goals at CSU Bakersfield, but you were part of that defensive line that allowed well under 1 goal against per game. So definitely a well-rounded team. As you mentioned, you advanced deep into the WAC tournament. You got an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament. You started that NCAA tournament game against St. Mary's. What do you remember about the moment you got that call that you were going to make the start, and then your recollections of that game playing on that stage?
Yeah, I think the journey leading up to the NCAA game was just as special in itself. We won the semifinal against Air Force. Golden goal, Corey Kindle scored it, and then that put us into the final. Heartbreak. We lost on penalties. And so, obviously you lose the championship, you're bummed out, but you still kind of have a feeling that we could possibly still get into the tournament because of the season that we had put together collectively. And we had an NCAA viewing party in the Accardo room that Monday, and there was media, there was coaches, there was fans. I'll never forget the feeling that we had as a team when we heard our name and we saw our school come across the TV. So we were excited. It was really quick. Then it was like, all right, it's all about preparation. We knew who we were going to be playing in St. Mary's. We played them earlier on in the season, and to know we had a home game immediately. There was so much buzz and energy around the program, around the university. I remember going out to training that night, and we typically train during the day, but we were getting ready for a 7 o'clock kickoff, so we could kind of simulate everything that we possibly could. So we had training in the night under the lights. There was facilities people, there was people in from the NCAA putting up the NCAA tournament banner. So you just knew it was different. It was something that we had never been a part of. So we were excited. And then, obviously, you spoke about what the feeling felt like for me. to know I was going to be playing in a game and starting. It was special. But I mean, as a player, you just try to go through all your same routines, mentally, physical preparation. And yeah, it was obviously there was a lot of nerves. I think they're a good thing when you can channel them properly. But it was a fun game to be a part of. Is one of my fondest memories for playing at CSUB. Obviously, a disappointing result, and I wish it was different, but it was a great experience.
How does an experience like that affect you now as an assistant coach with the program, and where you see the program capable of going? Obviously, you played on a team that competed on the national stage, so you know the potential this program has. How does that motivate you moving forward?
Oh, that really motivates me, and I think it should be a motivation for each one of our players, and I think it is. But it just shows that it's obtainable. We can get there. College athletics is really unique because of the 4-year eligibility. You have 4 years to compete. So as a staff, you're constantly building, rebuilding your team, and you're trying to find that unit together that can make a special run. For us, it's a mix. We feel like it's a mix of some experience, a bit of maybe you call it like naivety, young players who just don't know any better and they're just ready for the run. And that could have been me when I was a freshman, playing in those games. And the squad that we feel we're bringing back from last fall and this spring, combined with the class that we have coming in, that's our full intention, is to have these, high marks of where we want to go, and then put the plans in place to achieve those goals.
Before we get into your coaching career, I just want to ask you, when you were growing up playing soccer and then playing here at CSU Bakersfield, did you know at the time, or was it on your radar that maybe you would coach down the road? And what does it mean for you to be coaching at your alma mater of all places?
Yeah, first off, I didn't know at all. When I went into CSUB, I studied communications, public relations, and I thought I wanted to do maybe something even similar to what you're doing, but like sports broadcasting or being behind a camera, something like that. And then, like many young adults, your ambitions change. You see yourself doing something different, and I kind of had this idea of maybe teaching. So I finished my senior season. I was in my first, I finished my first quarter of grad school, and, and it was December. Back then we were on the quarter system. So after Thanksgiving, it's like a ghost town. Everybody disappears for all of Christmas break. And I took the CBET, the test that allows you to substitute teach. Because I thought, maybe I'll take this. I can make some money in the spring, and I can see if I really want to teach or not. And I think later that day, might have been the next day, Coach Ritchie called me. I was just at home, and he was like, "Hey, you in town? Can you come by the office?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes." So he pulled me inside with Coach Jerry, and they presented that opportunity. They asked, we're thinking about bringing you on staff. Is this something that you think you would like to do? And he told me think about it over the weekend, and then get back to him. And I think I gave him a ring that night, and I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to be part of it." Not knowing if that's really what I wanted to do. But I would say, maybe a month in, after we began training in the spring, and my mind was just constantly thinking about the team and how we could progress and all this. I was like, I love this. I'm all in.
Yeah, it's wild sometimes how things happen by accident, but they seem to work out for the best. That's a great story, Coach. Now you're heading into your 5th season, which I'm sure is hard to believe at times. As we mentioned earlier, this season will be the program's first in the Big West Conference. The Big West has pretty consistently been a multi-bid league to the NCAA Tournament. certainly a step up in competition. What are the challenges presented by the new league, and what are the program's expectations heading into year number one?
Yeah, I think for me it's important to show appreciation to the WAC first, as we exit the league, because they were great for us over the past 5 seasons. They gave us a home to compete in, but we're so excited about moving into the Big West. Obviously, the caliber of teams that we'll be playing, are very strong. As coaches, we're always following other teams in the area, their conferences. We're always studying our opponents, and just watching the run that Santa Barbara went on last season, making it deep into the NCAA tournament, into the Elite Eight. And there was probably arguably three other teams in the Big West that were just as capable of doing that. So we're really excited. We know we have a ton of work to do. That's the part of the job that we're ready to do. And it's a league that has obviously incredible programs, but really strong coaching and coaching staffs. Historically, there's a lot of pros that have been produced from these teams, and we're excited to join a conference and try to make some noise right from the beginning.
In talking to some other coaches on staff, one of the areas that they've mentioned a noticeable shift in with the move to the Big West Conference is recruiting, both in maybe the caliber of prospect whose attention they're garnering, but also maybe the areas they might be recruiting in. Now that you're coaching in primarily a California conference, has anything changed in your strategies towards recruiting and the type of kids you're targeting?
Yeah, I think the Big West Conference kind of just jumps off the page. It's a super reputable conference for men's soccer. It's very attractive, especially to California kids. Us being kind of centrally located in the conference is an appeal as well. Players who want to be able to play and perform in front of their families and their friends. Now it's completely reasonable to have your family travel to an away game or travel into Bakersfield. So I think the caliber of player has increased as well because of the attractiveness of the conference. So we're excited about that, and just kind of what the conference, how it can really help us, attract top talent. Now, obviously, it's still our job to put a display on the field that's attractive to recruits. But we believe that joining this conference will definitely be an added benefit.
Let's talk a little bit about the team that will be taking the field for this first Big West season. Last year, you guys won 4 of your last 5 regular season games, won your opener in the WAC tournament, pushed eventual WAC champion Seattle to the limit in the semifinals. What do you remember about the team's performance down the stretch last season, and how do you expect that momentum to carry into this season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it was definitely a season of highs and lows, which most seasons are, to be honest. But we had 2 really good weekends to finish out the double weekend games, or the double game weekends, excuse me. We had 2 good performances at home. Then we went on the road, and we picked up 2 big wins there. And then unfortunately, we had a little small hiccup to finish off the season against Cal Baptist. We knew, and I think Coach Ritchie did a phenomenal job we had to have a short turnaround before we began the conference tournament. So we made the adjustments that we needed to. We addressed the things that didn't go well in the last game, and we really wanted to kind of, so to speak, right or wrong against San Jose State. We played them earlier in the season, and they got the better of us. But going into the tournament, we were confident in our game plan and the opposition, how we were going to attack them and their strengths. And obviously, we advanced from that game, and it was kind of a heartbreaker, disappointing result against Seattle, because I thought we performed very well, and I thought the boys deserved more than and to go out like that. But so the way we ended last year, I think gives us confidence going into this new season. Understanding that what we've put together and the work that we're putting in, especially behind the scenes, can catapult us into a good team ahead of us.
One of the things I think a lot of fans will be looking at is the graduation of Ryan Goldsmith and Nicholas Korber from last season's team. The two of them combined for 14 of 29 goals, almost 50%. Where do you look to get increased scoring this season to make up for that departing offense and perhaps exceed it?
Yeah, Ryan and Nicholas were tremendous for us, primarily, obviously, in the attack. They had an ability to score goals, which is obviously the hardest thing to do on the field. So we got a lot of work to do to replace that, but I think it's going to be by committee. We have a couple players. If you look beyond Nicholas and Ryan in terms of goals, just shy of them, with Carlos Alvarez, he was able to get on the score sheet in a couple games and some big time goals for us too. So we fully anticipate him to contribute more and to continue to contribute to goals or assists. He's a center midfielder. We're constantly, coaching him and giving him advice to get higher up the field, to get in and around the 18-yard box, because when he does, good things happen. So you look at the likes of Carlos, Mikey Robo. Mikey as a freshman last year was able to get, a relative bit of individual success in terms of scoring goals for us. He got a few, and we think with his pace, with his natural attributes, he's dangerous on either side. He's dangerous up top. We think he can definitely contribute more to scoring goals.
You mentioned Carlos Armendariz. I want to ask you about his story because I think it's fascinating. But his freshman year, he really didn't play that much at all. And then his sophomore year, he leads the team in minutes. Not only is he playing a big role, but he's also one of the captains on your team. How would you attribute, that rise to prominence in such a short time and playing such a big role both on and off the field for your club?
Yeah, Carlos, he's a special young man. He's, I think, the way that his parents have raised him, along with some life kind of circumstances that he's dealt with growing up, has kind of shaped him into the young man he is. And I think if he was on this conversation, he would agree that his first season was a disappointment. When we were recruiting him, obviously he possessed all the technical abilities that we were looking for, but even more so than that was his character. He had an ability to lead his teammates. They would follow him, and that was something that we were really looking for to join our program at the time. So when he reported in for the fall season, maybe a number of things. He wasn't physically prepared, and he just wasn't ready, which is okay, because a lot of freshmen aren't ready, and you got to be patient. You got to help grow them. But ultimately, at the end of the season, it was in December. We were having to sit down with him and kind of just talking about everything, and where we thought he could go with his career at CSUB. But ultimately, it all landed on him. The ball was in his court, so to speak. And when he came back from Christmas break in January, the change in him was noticeable from the moment we saw him. Physically, just his appetite for wanting to succeed and to show us that, we're really going to get Carlos that we recruited. I think all the credit goes to him. I think he put in a lot of work. Now, he's not a finished product. He had a decent season last year as a sophomore, but we have high expectations for Carlos, and I think he has high ambitions for himself. So he definitely is on the rise.
Yeah, it's certainly an adjustment for a lot of incoming freshmen. It always is exciting when you see that light switch on for them and they're able to live up to their potential. Another player you mentioned was Mikey Robo. He kind of played a similar role to the role you played your freshman season, I guess, starting off the bench early in the season, providing a spark, taking on a larger role as the season progressed. He certainly looks like a candidate to step into a full-time role. What's that transition like? What was it like for you? And what do you think he needs to work on to really make that step?
Yeah, you said Mikey was definitely a spark, personality-wise, and just his ability on the field. A lot different, I would say, situation than what we just spoke about with Carlos. When Mikey came in, he was, and even now, like he's just wide-eyed, ready to take on whatever information you give him, and he just wants to play. So he scored in his debut, right, against Elon in the first game of the season. Mikey, if you're watching this, you should have scored the second one, and that would have put us in a better position to win a game. But yeah, so I think he's got a ton of potential. He obviously has, pace, which you can't really teach. So he's very versatile, coming from wide areas, and I think for Mikey, it's just sticking to what he does best, his best attributes, of going forward, taking players on, being brave in the final third, and then just adding some detail to his game. We talk about it all the time, but the concept of coming early and staying late. We say it to all our players, but especially with young players, you need to work on your game every day, and not just what the 2 hours that you have, but go out early before training. Grab a bag of balls and work on your cross game, your finish game, your set pieces, whatever the case is for your position. But we have a lot of hope and expectation for Mikey. We'll continue to be patient with him, but he's someone that I really think can kick on this season, and we fully expect him to.
On the other end of the field, certainly in a sport like soccer, defending is really a team proposition. But as you enter a new conference with high-level competition, how reassuring is it to have a player like D-Trey Bell, who's made 43 career starts, has a lot of experience, and has really delivered for you in some big moments as your last line of defense?
Yeah, D-Trey is obviously a special one. He's got an electric personality, an infectious persona about him. He's that type of kid that when he enters the room, people notice him just because the energy, natural energy that he brings. And he brings this onto the field. He's hugely competitive. That's seen in training every day. It's seen in his, desire to win and be successful. And, from 3 seasons ago as a freshman, when he came to us as a transfer from UConn, we obviously saw the raw talent that he had. Obviously you're looking at his ability to shot stop, keep the ball out of the net. But, I would commend his feet. As a goalkeeper, his feet are probably the best that I've witnessed. His ability to start an attack, bring the ball down, and just play from the back is really big. And for him going into his senior year, I think he understands that time is limited now, and everything that he's doing will reflect what our outcomes are. So to have his experience behind a back line is hugely important. He's probably seen every game that he will. So I don't think he'll be facing anything new. Now, granted, yes, he's going into a new conference, and he's going to be tested very early. But just a kid and a competitor that D-Trey is, he'll rise to that pressure. He's someone that he puts a lot of pressure on on himself and his own game. So anything added, I don't think will faze him.
Those are three names that may be among the more recognizable for the program's fans. But who else are you looking towards this season as having the ability to step to another level and really make an impact in the Big West?
Yeah, the first name that jumps off to me, unfortunately, Steph's season was ended in the first game of the year last season with a season-ending injury. But the type of resilience and determination that he's shown just over the last, 7, 8, 9 months, has been inspiring to not just his teammates, but us as a staff. He's put in a tremendous amount of work, rehab work with Kevin, with the team physicians. And he came up to me the other day just saying, "Hey, Coach, I finally got the all clear from the doctor." So he's ready to go. We're going to be patient with his recovery, and we're going to get him ready. But he's someone that I think is hungry. He's missed the game, and we fully anticipate him to be a big spark and a big returner for us this coming year. And then I think anytime you're looking forward to a season who could potentially play big roles is I think you look at some of the older experienced players because it's, their last season. They have everything to prove. The feeling has finally hit them that this is it. So I'm going to put everything into it. So you look at, Ricky Ricardo Sosa, center midfielder, who, we think can add more to the attack. He's creative. He possesses all the technical abilities to unlock a defense. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Tom Shepard, who can play a number of different roles. Last season, you saw him play center forward, and you saw him play out wide. So I think he's versatile in our attack. You also look at Victor Romero, who, I don't really like to use the word utility player, but he's been able to play a lot of positions for us. He's been, a stand-up character, stand-up player. He's someone that we can trust. He's good off the field, and he can play a number of positions for us. So I'm excited for all of them because it's their last season, and I hope it's a special one for them.
Well, it should be a great year, Coach. It's certainly a nice group, a nice mix of potential and experience and depth of talent. In addition to this being your first year in the Big West Conference, this will be my first year working with you guys during the season. I can't wait to get started. I know circumstances are a little tricky this year, but good luck to you, the rest of the staff, your student athletes as you prepare for this season. And thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your reflections on your career and the state of the program today.
Dan, I really appreciate you having me on. Everyone stay safe. Look forward to putting the team on the field here shortly, and everybody can watch from home.